Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're diving into Django, chances are you've already bumped into a few frustrating errors that made you want to throw your laptop out of the window. Well, no need to worry because you're not alone. Today we are looking at some of the most common mistakes people make in Django, why they happen, and of course how you can avoid them. So stick around because I promise this will save you a lot of headaches. So we start with the classic one. You've added a new field to your model, refresh the page, and boom, Django is screaming at you. That's because you forgot the golden rule. Python manage.py make migrations and Python manage.py migrate. So beginners often forget this step, and Django doesn't magically guess your database changes. So every time you update the fields in your models, you need to remember to make the migration. So always remember, models change, migrations change, and then you migrate. So the second mistake is putting your database password, your API keys, or secret key directly inside your settings.py. This is like tattooing your ATM pin on your forehead. Instead, use environment variables and libraries like Python decouple or Django built-in support for os.environ, which works well with Django.env library. That's a way to secure your project even in production. So with the help of such libraries, you can easily get your variables from your .env file and actually have them stored secretly. Another common mistake that beginners might make is not using virtual environments. So, you ever install a package for Django and suddenly another project stops working? Yeah, that's what exactly happens when you don't use virtual environments. Always set up a virtual environment at the start of your project, whether it's VNV, pipenv, or poetry. Trust me, you'll thank yourself later. I'm just going to show you simply how you can set up a VNV environment. And it's super easy and super simple. So step 1, in your project folder, run this Python m venv. This creates a new folder called venv that will hold isolated copy of Python just for this project. Activate it on Mac or Linux or Windows. I am using Windows, so this is how I activate my virtual environment on Windows. Now, install Django. Freeze your dependencies so you can recreate them later. Now, if you share your project, Someone else can just do this. And this is also very useful when deploying your applications to production. Another mistake that is very common when working with Django is confusing the single equal sign with double equal sign in query sets. Here's a sneaky one. When filtering data, people often write something like this, which is correct, but most beginners will write something like this. And Django will throw an error faster than you can blink. Remember, in filters, we pass keyword arguments, not comparison operators. The rule is always inside filters, always use field equals to value, and it's a single equals syntax, no double equals. Now, I'm sure that you have opened your Django admin panel once and saw something like this. Object 1, Object 2, Object 3. And that's because you forgot to add a str method in your model. Now, it's a very subtle detail, but it makes your life so much easier when debugging. Look at this, for example. Book Object 1, Book Object 2. That's completely useless because I have no idea which book is which. And the fix is just adding a simple str method at the end of my class method, at the end of my class model. Something like this. And now when I open my admin, I will see something different and I will actually be able to differentiate the books way better, right? This also makes your shell queries and debugging way much easier. So the rule of thumb, always add a type of return method, always add mostly an str method to your models. It's like giving them a readable name tag. The next mistake that really hits a lot of developers is mixing up static and media files. It's a pain point not just for beginners but also for experienced Django developers. What are static files and what are media files? Head over to your settings and look at the static files and the media files and the base URLs that you're setting for your static files and for your media files. The static files are the CSS, JS images that ship with your project. The media files are the user uploaded content. Don't put user profile pics in statics. In the static, I mean. Set up proper media URL and media root in settings. And you'll avoid hours of broken image frustration. Again, the difference between the static files and the media files. Static files include the CSS, JS, site-wide images, and the media files include the user uploaded content. And in your settings.py, if you're going to be working with static files and media files, you need to have this set up in your settings.py. You need to have such a configuration. Put your CSS in static, put user uploads like profile pictures in media. And if you mix them up, Django won't know where to find your files. Last but not least, ignoring error messages is also an error we make when working with Django as developers. Now, I have a lot of pros for me personally when I work with Django. There are a lot of pros that I can list, but one of the pros in Django, it's its debugging capabilities and how accurate Django is when it comes to debugging. Django's error pages are honestly some of the best among all the frameworks. If you see something like field ID expected a number but got ABC, guess what? Django is literally telling you that you passed a string where it expected an integer. Now, instead of panicking and pasting the whole thing in Google, take 20 seconds to actually read the error, and it actually works. Now, you always have to set your debug to true if you're in your production environment. You can choose to switch off debugging in Django by simply heading to the settings and setting the debug attribute in your settings to false, but it's always advisable to have this set to true in production. Django is has one of the best debugging capabilities among most of the frameworks that I've used, and it actually tells you where the error is. You just need to read into detail and just take some time, and you're actually going to find the error. Most of the time, the fix is right there. So, those are the 7 most common Django mistakes I see beginners make, and even experienced developers. And I will admit, I'm guilty of every single one of them. I made every single one of these myself when I was starting out. If this video saved you some debugging hours, hit that like button, subscribe for more Django content, and let me know in the comment what's the funniest, silliest mistake you've made in Django. See you in the next one.